The U.S. Sentencing Commission is a group that makes recommendations on drug policy, and they just came forward with a proposed amendment that would cut 70% of drug sentences. So this is clearly an overwhelming victory. It's definitely a step in the right direction. And unless Congress votes to stop the amendment, it goes into place on November 1st. Now remember, this isn't legalization. We're not talking about drug legalization. This isn't even decriminalization. And it also doesn't reduce penalties for drug traffickers with the greatest drug quantities, and it doesn't cut sentences for any violent criminals. It's just a very vanilla, very moderate step in the right direction where we cut 70% of the nonviolent drug offenses, and we say, maybe we went a little overboard with these mandatory minimums where we shoved you in a cell for 10 years when you had a little bit of cocaine on you. That's basically what we're talking about here. And the Republicans are set to block it. God, if this story doesn't get under your skin, I don't know what will, man. Because, look, you guys know me. I think we should go all the way to legalization. I think it's a right for you to put in your body whatever you want to put in your body as long as you're not hurting anybody else. You know, if you want to destroy your life even with crystal meth, that's none of my business, man. That's none of my business. You know, the overwhelming majority of all drug users are moderate people who just do the equivalent of a guy having a few Coronas after work. And that goes for across the board with all these different drugs. It's nothing but propaganda when people say, but this drug is way worse than this drug. The only drugs that, like, actually are super deadly and are a real issue are the ones that are made underground in the black market and are cut with all these different gross things like diesel fuel, for example. Like crystal meth. They cut that with diesel fuel and nail polish remover and all these different gross substances. And the problem is, because drugs are illegal, that's why they're allowed to make these drugs incredibly dangerous and mix them with all these ridiculous things. You know, same thing with bath salts, same thing with what was the other one? Crocodile, which is like the heroin derivative, which kills people in under a year if they use it. That wouldn't exist if regular heroin were legal. Or if, for example, Vicodin or OxyContin or in the pill form it was legal. But again, we're not even talking about legalization. This isn't about legalization. This isn't about decriminalization. We're talking about slightly reducing the sentences for nonviolent drug criminals so we can, guess what, stop wasting taxpayer dollars and shrink government in the process. But the Republicans, who are supposed to be the party that love to shrink government, are saying, no, we would like bigger government. We would like the biggest government imaginable. You know, we live in a country where there's almost no representation. Like, Congress totally disregards the American people. Because 59% of the American people want to legalize weed, for example. And are they clamoring to actually do that? No, they're not. And it's not just that they're idiots, and it's not just that they're undemocratic and they don't care about what we think. It also has to do with corruption. That's what it really comes down to. You know, that's the reason why they're fighting these sentences, or this bill or this proposal to reduce sentences, is because this is a jobs program, man. The war on drugs is a jobs program. And if you cut the sentences for these people in jail, then you're going to need more asses in those beds in the jails in order to make sure that all the prison guards have a job, all the private prisons continue to get their taxpayer paycheck. You have to make sure. Look, we've covered this in so many different ways and for an extended period of time on the show, but we lock people up now for things that we used to not lock them up for. And the reason is that the private prison industry has lobbied the politicians to pass these new laws. So it used to be that if you catch somebody crossing the border, somebody doing illegal immigration, you would just send them right back over the border and release them. Now if we catch somebody doing that, we put them in jail. Why? Because that's more money in the pockets of the private prison people who are doing this for profit. The 3-strike laws, for example. There didn't used to be 3-strike laws. 3 felonies, no matter how minor the felonies. On the third one, you get a life sentence. Why did that happen? Because that's more money in the pockets of the private prisons, so they lobbied Congress to pass these laws that put more people in prison. It's a very simple equation. And this is why throughout history, every civilized society has understood, well, we don't privatize the prisons. That's insane. You're creating a perverse incentive where some people are going to want to lock up more of their citizens. You shouldn't want to lock up more of your citizens. It's a last resort thing, like, oh, this guy's such a bad guy. He did this horrible thing. We got to put him away from everybody else. So when I look at something like this, it drives you crazy, because this is just another example of us wanting something and them saying no.